For those of you that are just joining us, we're giving everyone a little bit of time to get in and get settled, and then we'll get started in just a minute or so. We'll pass that over to Raziel, our CEO and co-founder, to kick us off. I'm seeing lots of folks in the chat from all over the United States and even as far as India. So welcome, everyone. We've got a little over 150 people joining us today. I would like to welcome everyone and introduce you to our CEO and co-founder, Raziel. Raziel, would you like to kick us off?
Yes, thanks, Sarah. And hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Today, it's a super exciting day for us here at Codefresh. We have been working with you guys. We have been working with our customers for years by now, learning how to automate everything from code all the way to the cloud, learning how to set up this automation in a way that can give us the confidence to deploy frequently and reliably. And today, it's super exciting to announce and GA our new platform, a platform that has been built with everything that we have learned, has been built from the ground up on the latest technologies, have been built from the ground up on the fastest growing open source project, Argo. The platforms allow our customers not only to intuitively set a pipeline using Argo events and Argo workflow, but also implement the latest, most advanced deployment strategy using Argo CD and Argo rollouts. Today, we're excited to show it all. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to you, Dan.
Fantastic. Thank you, Raziel, getting us pumped up and excited. Obviously, just incredible to be able to share this new platform with you today. We announced it a while ago. We've been talking about it for a while. Now we're finally putting it, taking the cover off, putting it in your hands to allow you to start using it. Today's program is going to be pretty jam-packed. Raziel just gave us our welcome. Thank you, Raziel. We're going to jump into the platform right away. And I'm going to have Moran and Laurent helping me out for that. And we're going to give you an overview of the platform, show you some hands-on, give you a tour so that after this event, you're going to be able to just go jump into the platform yourself and start trying it out. We're really excited for you to do that. And then we also have invited a couple of partners to come on and talk about these trends and really a lot of the values that are underlying this new initiative, what we've been doing with Argo, what we're doing with GitOps. And then we have a couple of Argo customers who will be joining us to talk about what they're seeing and some of the impacts they're seeing of some of these different trends. And then finally, we'll close with a discussion with myself and Isaac Roth, who's just like a giant in the industry, basically the guy behind OpenShift. Really excited to have him on board. So keep the chat live. Make your comments, ask your questions. We'll try to keep an eye on that. And I know there are a bunch of code freshers hanging out in there that can help answer those questions that you might be having as we go through the technical questions or whatnot. And we'd love to have your discussion active. And if you see a cool shot, and you're going to see some cool shots, take a screenshot, throw it on Twitter. We'd love to see it. With that, let's jump into this platform. So we're going to be introducing what we really view as the future of software delivery. We think we're going to help you conquer DevOps with this new platform that's called Codefresh Software Delivery Platform. So we're going to jump into it. We're going to get real with it. And to help me out, I'm going to ask Moran and Laurent to join me. In case you don't know who I am, my name is Dan Garfield. I'm the co-founder and chief open source officer of Codefresh. Very excited to be with you. And Moran, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, I'm Moran Goldboim, Vice President of Product for Codefresh. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. And Laurent, you're joining us. You're one of our technical account managers.
Yes, I'm one of the technical account management. It means basically I help our customer after they purchase our product to help them on their journey to Codefresh platform.
Fantastic. So Moran and Laurent have both been working on some pretty cool demos, and we're going to bring them all together here. So to start off, let's state the problem. This is the problem that we really want to solve. We know, and you know, that delivering software is hard. It's a challenge. There is an insatiable demand to deploy more software, to deploy more changes, get those changes out of staging, get them into production, but it is costly and it's difficult. And oftentimes teams just don't feel confident in delivering new software because at every single level, they're challenged. At the application level, especially with the rise of microservices, it's really hard to tell when one service is impacting another. If you have 1,000 microservices, they have complex interdependencies that aren't always obvious and clear. So this introduces sort of a fog of war that a lot of teams have to deal with, where they might have many large organizations. They'll have one team or a couple of services that are deployed multiple times per day, but maybe they don't have that across their organization because they don't have the confidence that they'd be able to fix things if they went wrong. There's also a lot of infrastructure challenges. People are now being asked to deploy not just to on-prem environments, but virtual cloud environments. We have a lot of customers that are doing edge deployment. So we have customers that are deploying like a Kubernetes cluster in every hospital or in every storefront. And these edge clusters have their own unique challenges. And so when you have this diverse infrastructure, that's a challenge. And then the delivery tooling, of course, is a big challenge because people are maintaining these complex stacks in lots of different locations. Maybe they're not always secure, maybe they're not always up to date. And as a engineering team and a software delivery team, you might not always be aware of all the different tooling that's going on, and it may not integrate really well together. So, and people end up with these fragile, bespoke, scripted solutions that, they might work, but they're not always working, and you need specialized, people to work on them. So we know, delivering software, it's a challenge, and ultimately you end up with a low velocity of changes, high maintenance in your tooling. It's slow to repair things when they do go wrong, and nobody wants to deploy on Fridays, right? Because they don't have the confidence that those releases are going to work, and if something did go wrong, they don't have confidence that they're going to be able to identify those changes. So this is really what we want to solve today, and we really think that we've solved a lot of these challenges in this new platform. And of course, one of the things that's been really interesting to see with addressing these challenges is the rise of Argo. People have been choosing Argo CD and Argo workflows. The response from the community has been completely overwhelming. Argo, I don't know if you know this, Argo is now the fastest growing and most popular open source software delivery toolset in the world. And this is because it helps address some of these challenges. Argo CD, powering GitOps, making things clear, really powerful. Argo workflows, very powerful, not only for DevOps workflows, but also for data pipelines and things like that. It's one of the reasons that this project, the Argo project, is growing so fast. Many of you were at ArgoCon just a few months ago, and you saw how much energy there was there. I mean, it was probably the largest event that was largest CNCF event outside of KubeCon run last year. So this project has grown really well, and we're really proud to be maintainers of this project, of the Argo project, in partnership with Intuit and others. It's really critical for us, and it's a technology we really believe in. So we wanted to help the Argo community get the most out of Argo, and we wanted to help those who aren't using Argo today have an easier way of onboarding. And so this is a lot of the motivation in the platform. So we're going to jump into it. I'll stop doing all the theory stuff. This platform that we're going to introduce you to is called the Codefresh Software Delivery Platform because it is designed to help you deliver software. That's the goal, and it is really an enterprise distribution of Argo. It's built on what we've been doing with Argo over the last year and a half, 2 years. and really brings the culmination of our vision of what the software delivery experience could be like. So to introduce us to the platform, Moran, do you want to walk us through some of the components and how this platform fits together?
Thanks, Dan. So like, as you were mentioning, I think we are seeing great trends and great momentum with the different Argo projects. We truly believe that the sum of those projects coming together is greater than the parts of it, right? And the first value we thought of building this platform with is combining all of them together. And what does it mean? Like, first and foremost, like, we provide a uniform installation and lifecycle management for those projects together. So it is fully tested, secure, and supported. And instead of deploying each and every project in your environment, you can deploy one instance of a runtime, which deploys all of them, managing all of them using GitOps in a proven methodology, which is great. You don't need to care that much anymore about the entire life cycle. That's kind of a huge benefit. On top of that, we're adding a uniform UI, which is basically coming and putting all of those projects in one view, one glimpse. You don't need a segmented UI to look at your different workflow or different applications from Argo CD perspective. You've got one view that you can just change perspective and also unify, the way you address it. The second principle is we really wanted to build a platform. So building common services, shared services, and a shared way to address those projects together is kind of the second principle. So things like user management, role-based access control, SSO is built into the system. Things like metrics, insights, traces, like a uniform approach to address that is implemented in Codefresh Software Delivery Platform. Integration with third-party tooling, those kind of the platform level features we really want to bring to the game and consolidate the entire experience, right? And the third principle, and which I'm sure that you're going to talk more about it, is taking the GitOps path, right? GitOps is a big thing for us, and we are really seeing the trend and the advantages of utilizing Git to manage everything around our platform. But then I think that's kind of a brief overview, and take it away from here.
Yeah, this model is a hybrid model, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. But you can deploy the components onto your own infrastructure, while there is also this SaaS layer to manage things over the top, which is really critical. And it's pretty amazing how much is set up by default and just taken care of, especially from a security perspective and an ease of use perspective. But we're going to get into that stuff. The values of this platform are pretty clear. GitOps is a critical one. We're going to talk about that as we go into the installation. We really want to emphasize the GitOps because it really unlocks a lot of superpowers on this platform. Obviously, this platform is going to help you do continuous delivery. We're bringing everything together and unifying them. And the scalability of this platform is really, really powerful. One of the things that Argo users have been really happy with about is that Argo works really, really well. And so oftentimes you end up with hundreds or thousands of instances, and that's when things start to get a little bit more difficult. And that's what we really wanted to solve in this platform is I want to run Argo at scale. That's what we're going to be doing. So we're going to show you how it works. And before we jump into the installation, I wanted to talk just a moment about GitOps. Many of you are familiar with GitOps, but many people that maybe you've heard of GitOps and maybe you think, hey, well, that's just infrastructure as code thrown into Git, right? Well, it's actually a little bit more than that. And this is a standard and a set of best practices and a set of principles that we've been working on. Many of you have heard of the GitOps Working Group or Open GitOps, which is a CNCF project that we founded in a partnership with Amazon and GitHub, Azure, Weaveworks, Red Hat, a few others. And we had over 70, 80 different people participate in the formation of the standard. But the thing that I want to emphasize about it, because we're not going to go through all of the principles of it, is where it differentiates from what we've done in the past as software delivery teams. With GitOps, not only do I have my desired state, and that desired state of my system, of my runtime, of my production, of my staging, that should be under version control, versioned and immutable, and very clear. This is something that most people have been on board with. but the actual state has to be constantly monitored by a GitOps agent, a reconciler that is always looking for drift in the actual state and correcting and applying the desired state when necessary. So if somebody goes into my Amazon account and they make a change to the actual state, well, that change didn't go through Git, it didn't go through version control, and so this would be recognized as drift, and my reconciler would correct it automatically. What we're going to do in this platform, and you're going to see it, when we install it, we're actually going to do it in a GitOps friendly way. So most of the interface that you see today in the Codefresh platform is actually really using Git as the back end and allowing the GitOps reconciler, which is Argo CD, to automatically apply the configurations that we create in Git. So this is a totally different way of working. I don't know of any other tools that work this way. Most people, when they operate a system, they do a bunch of manual operations, and then hopefully they remember to put it into Git. More often than not, they don't, or there are manual steps that they don't put in. So here we're actually going to get everything into Git from the get-go. We do Git first, and then operation of the system, and that's going to happen in a single command. So hopefully that's clear. If you have any other questions about GitOps, feel free to mention it in the chat. We do have an amazing GitOps training certification that we'll post in the chat as well. It's free for the moment, so you should definitely jump on it. So here's what we're going to do to demo this platform. We're going to take you through the journey. We're going to install the Codefresh runtime. We're going to create a delivery pipeline that will build and push images into our registry. And then we're going to look at how the application deployment and managing application deployment at scale really brings everything together and really creates a single interface for Argo and makes really an Argo platform. So let's jump into the installation, and then we're going to take you through these other components. So for the installation, I have prepared a couple of things. Now you can see I'm here inside of the Codefresh platform, and I'm looking at all of my available runtimes right now. I have one in AWS called AWS Prod. I've got one in Hospital 743. This is a nod to our Edge friends. These can be deployed behind the firewall. These are deployed on your infrastructure. So the question I saw people saying in the chat, wait, is this a SaaS solution? Is this an on-prem solution? It's both. And that's what you're going to see in action here. So when I want to go ahead and start off an installation of a new runtime, and I'm going to put one on GCP for this demo, I'm going to add the runtime. And if I don't already have the CLI installed, you can do this with Homebrew, you can do this with curl, you can do it on Linux, and you're going to be able to use it on Mac OS as well. So really straightforward to add the CLI. We're not going to do that today. Once I've done that, I just need a Kubernetes cluster to deploy it onto. And then I just need to run the command. So let's jump over to my terminal. And I've got my cluster already set up here. And the only prerequisite for this installation beyond the cluster is we need an ingress, which is going to allow us to capture webhooks from from GitHub or whatever that's going to be triggering our workflows. And it's also going to allow for a common interface and API interaction from the platform. So the CF runtime, I'm going to go ahead and install this. And I'm also going to set an ingress host that I set up beforehand just for use here. Let's make sure I don't make any typos in it. This ingress has SSL on it, so this is all going to be done in a secure way. And actually, all of the elements of this can be set with flags, so you don't have to use the wizard here, but the wizard makes it really easy. So I'm going to name my runtime GCP prod, and I'm going to select this cluster that I've set up in GKE. This is my GCP prod. I already have one in AWS. I already have one on an Edge cluster. So let's do that. And I'm going to add a repository URL. And this repository URL is going to be the repo where all of the configuration for the platform is going to live. And I've already created this repo, and you can see it's empty. If I refresh this, you can see I just deleted everything about an hour ago. And this is going to be the source of truth for my Codefresh runtime that I'm installing on my own cluster. And I already have an API token set, so I don't need to add one here. And this one will use the system token as well. And I'm going to install the demo resources, which is just going to create a demo pipeline for me. Why not? Oh, wait, I need to set the, hang on. Let me stop sharing for a moment so I can export my token, or actually I'll do it over here. Sorry about that. I set it in my other terminal window, I think. GCP prod, yes. Repository URL, that's the one that I set a second ago. My token is already set, install demo resources. I set it as an environmental variable, and I just hadn't done it in my other window. Okay, continue with the installation. So what this is going to do, and the way that this process works, I think is really cool. What it's going to do is it's going to install Argo CD onto this target cluster, and then it's going to add the configuration for that Argo CD to Git, and then it's going to add the entire rest of the platform as applications that exist within that Argo CD instance. And this installs the platform as a single runtime, which is all managed together and actually manages itself. So if I wanted to delete it or modify it, I'm going to be able to do that. I see while it's running, I just looking at the questions here, I see some people are asking, are other installation methods supported aside from the CLI? We do have a Terraform module that's coming out momentarily. It should be out very soon. And we're going to support a few other installation methods, but the CLI does work really great. And what I like about it especially is that it makes sure that I do everything in a GitOps way. So you can see Argo CD has been deployed. And if I go and I look at my repo here, we can see that it's bootstrapped the application. I've got my Argo CD instance, all my cluster resources, and then it's essentially just going to add the each of the other components as an application. So Argo events is being installed right now, and within a few seconds, we'll see the other components showing up. If I go and look at my runtime, we can see that this GCP prod has kicked off and is syncing. And there are a number of applications that are being defined, and those are going to sync up as part of the installation process. If I come back and look over here, we should have, let's see, we're getting the events ready, and it's going to install the other components. And it's basically doing this again through Git first. So it's just adding it to Git. So when I'm done with this process, let's say my cluster got nuked for some reason, I actually have disaster recovery built right in, right? And every change that we make from the Codefresh UI is actually going to end in a Git commit that is then synced to the cluster through this process. So I won't make you sit through the whole rest of the installation. I want to show you what we can actually do with it, but you can see the runtime as it's installed, in my other existing runtimes, and we will see these other applications will start to show up shortly. So rather than wait for that, let's jump over and just explain a little bit about this hybrid infrastructure that we're doing. So Moran, do you want to maybe explain kind of the benefits of the hybrid?
Yeah. So many organizations tend to choose between type of a self-hosted deployment and kind of benefit all the security consideration and kind of an on-prem type of deployment, or going with the SaaS and somehow feels that they are compromising around security aspect, leaking data and such. What we really wanted to provide here is enjoying both worlds, security and reliability on-prem without compromising the ease of management and the ease of managing your system and taking care of the life cycle of a SaaS. And this is where our hybrid model come to play. So how do we do that? If we take a look at the Codefresh runtime layer, this is where the execution happens. This is on customer premise, and this is where the execution data is being saved. So all the data relevant to the execution happening on the cluster and doesn't leave this premise. So this is where Kubernetes is running. This is where Algo is running. This is what we have just you've shown installing as the runtime. Things that actually kept there are the application code and artifacts, obviously, right? But also all the CI/CD pipeline definitions, elements like secret, credentials, runtime configuration, all the sensitive data is actually stays on the cluster. It gives it another great benefit that it's autonomous, right? Once everything is configured there, we can skip the connection. Connection can be break to the management, to the control plane, and the cluster will continue working, will continue to deliver software with the previous configuration. On the upper side, we see Codefresh control plane. That's the UI, that's the console, that's the SaaS service that you were connecting to see the management aspect. This is where we serve the UI from, and this is where we save all of the metadata and provide things like execution metrics, insight, and all the multi-cluster aggregations view to actually control all of those runtimes. It's important to remember that we are talking about here, as you were mentioning, deployment at scale. So multiple runtimes, multiple clusters being managed from a single view, single instance that is actually managed for you. So this way we can balance between the ease of management of SaaS while keeping all of the data and all of the sensitive data on the customer premise. Because of GitOps, because the way we architecture this service and technology, that's part of the benefits we can offer to our customers.
Yeah, and this model, this security model is really interesting, and we found success with customers that are in sensitive industries like defense or healthcare or finance, where they really love this model because they keep, like you said, all those secrets on their own infrastructure, everything that's sensitive on their own infrastructure, but they have this control plane so they can manage it, and regardless of where it is. And that's one of the really unique values of the Codefresh Software Delivery Platform, is that I can basically view all of my runtimes together in that control plane. I see some people are saying, well, can I do the control plane on-prem? Can I do this air gap? Talk to our solutions, our SA team. We have some really cool stuff we're doing with this. So definitely open the conversation. So now that we've installed it, we've explored the control plane a little bit, let's get into the process of creating a delivery pipeline. And we'll start from the perspective of existing Argo users. If they want to create a CI pipeline, there's a fair amount of configuration that goes into that. So Laurent, why don't you tell us what the experience is like from a vanilla Argo perspective, and then you can show us what it's like in this new platform.
Yes, perfect transition. We had a question about CI in the chat. So I started my own journey with Argo workflow, a few months ago when we started playing with our tool internally. And I should admit, it was complex. One of my colleagues, Francisco, said it better than me last week, saying, with great power comes great complexity, and he's right. There are a lot of moving pieces. I mean, if you've played with the different Kubernetes and Argo, it's true. I mean, it's great, but so you have to, put your sources to get information from, GitHub or any other sources, and then you have to use your sensor to kind of filter them out. And then, of course, you need your automation, your workflow template itself. Eventually, you have to do stuff with the ingress to be sure you send the data to the right place. So putting all the pieces together was not easy for me. And I assume I'm not the only one. When you start, there is a lot of new information to put together. So, but with Codefresh, we have created this new wizard that I'm going to demo in a second that helps you to put all the pieces together. And once you're good and you don't need it anymore, you still have the whole power of Argo workflow if you want to go, beyond that. So let me share my screen, Dan.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Please.
Stop sharing. There you go.
Okay, share screen. Okay, let's move that out of the way. So here is my my own installation. So here is a workflow I created basically by hand, a CI. So we have a bunch of different pieces that I had to put together. And again, here everything was done by hand. So I have my my Git source. where I get basically my webhook for GitHub. And then I have my sensor, which I would compare to basically a filter. So, I want to grab some information and not everything. And as part of that sensor, I'm basically calling either directly my workflow, my pipeline, or most of the time you call a workflow template, one level up. And then of course you need to have your automation itself, your workflow. And these come with a bunch of parameters. And if you have, additional, workflow template that you're calling, plugins, it's a lot of pieces. So sometimes it's hard to figure out how those pieces come together. So Codefresh will give you that, graphical view that really gives you more information on how everything is connected. So let's create our first workflow. So we have this new wizard, and let's create something. So I'm not very good with them, so let's call it demo, and I'm going to do a push for that one. So here's something which is brand new. I mean, it was released yesterday. You can either pick up basically a starter template we gave you, or you can go and look at your existing one that you have in your company. So for people who have a central team, like most of our customers, that's going to be great because they're going to be able to provide basically beginner template or startup, that have been blessed and have all the right parts that people are going to be able to use, very easily to do their own development. So here for the demo, let's use the basic one. So I'm creating a bunch of manifests, and as Dan mentioned, we are in Argo and we are GitOps. So we're going to push everything into my repo. Whoops. Sorry. Oh, this one I don't have to. So I'm going to put all my file into my repo for then Argo to come and and read. So the first thing we do here, as I say, we give you that template to start your own CI pipeline. So let's change the name. And the next part, which was difficult for me, was in addition to putting the source and the sensor that we do here automatically, was also to pass all the parameters. So let's do both at once. So here I'm going to create some event based on my repo where I have my service. So here in this case, I'm going to do something very simple, just based on push. And now the system automatically pick the different variables from my workflow template. So that's totally dynamic. If I were to change my workflow template and remove some of the parameter, the UI will reflect it. So let's fill some of the info. So the first thing typically you have to do when you work with Argo workflow directly is to try to go and analyze your the payload you get from your source to grab the information. So here we've added also another simplification to make that easy. The same way we had variables in Codefresh Classic. So here I'm going to take my repository. So my image name that I'm going to build and push is going to be something like that, microservice. So the image tag I'm going to use basically the SHA from Git, so my Git revision. So here that's the same parameter, but for a different part of the pipeline. Same thing for the branch. I'm going to use a branch coming from my payload. Same thing for my commit URL. Commit message, I could either enter something manually or same thing. I'm going to reuse my commit message, and here I'm going to fill a couple of parameters for my process to work. So my Docker file is going to be the default, the GitOps secret. So I have a secret already pre-created that I'm going to reuse. The context is basically the directory where my Docker file is. My credential for Canico is going to be that. I'm building a Canico image. And then I'm going to add some information to that image, and I need additional information to access it as well. So here I've, my pipeline, I'm passing the parameter, and I want to add an additional filter. Remember I talked about the sensor. So let's go basically just filter on my branch. So, very simple, only when it's master, I'm going to have my CI. And here I apply. So now I have a bunch of manifests that have been created. So now it's just a matter of basically pushing them to my Git repository for the system to go and pick up. So push for demo. So here I'm committing some file. So here it's going, Argo CD is going to automatically find my new file and basically create a pipeline. But if you want to see information a little faster, you can go to the Git repo. And as you can see here, I have a couple of new files with my sensor, my Git source, my workflow template. And I've also modified my ingress to basically push those new events to my repo. And in addition, the workflow is created also on my Git repo where my service is. So as you can see now, I have my new repo created. I have my my new pipeline is created. I have all my file. The tree gives me a view of all the different pieces. So now let's go run that CI. So I have a copy of my microservice on my laptop. So I'm just going to do a simple push, and then pretty quickly I should have a workflow starting. And here we go. So now my pipeline is starting. So as you can see, right on the dashboard here, you can see who did the push, what's the SHA, a couple of information, out of the bat that you can relate. So let's go look at my workflow in more detail. So a nice graphical view with kind of a mini map here. So when you have something bigger, you can orient yourself, and you can scroll up and down. If we go to this one. So here I'm building my Docker image. I'm using Kenko. So something also to mention is you don't have to rely on Docker in Docker as we did into the previous version. You have a little more options which are great for security. So here I have my log file. But we also have a few more information that are interesting. Obviously, the code we're executing, it's always nice to see, what you're executed for, especially when you have a big pipeline. What, container are you using? If you have some input parameter, they're visible here very easily. If you use artifact, and if you also have some output parameter, they're visible here as well. And of course, you have information about your pod itself, because in Argo workflow, you use basically one pod per step by default instead of what we did in Codefresh Classic, which was one pod for the duration. So here my pipeline is moving along. It should be fairly soon. I think it takes about 2 minutes. So I've built my image. I've pushed it to Quay in this case. Then we're enriching it, so I'm adding more information to it, tags and stuff. So my CI is done. So let's look what happened. So as I say, I created a new image, microservice. 11:37. It's my local time, so I just push it. And here I'm basically enriching my image with some information about GitHub. And in a few minutes, Moran is going to show you more on, how to push also some, Jira information, pull requests, and all that information. We use that into our different dashboard, again, to show you a lot of information under one single pane of glass. So basically, from start to finish, barely 10 minutes to create a pipeline from scratch. Very easily, especially if you don't have any experience with Argo workflow. I would really recommend that you give it a try and let us know. So that's all for me. Dan, back to you.
Thank you, Laura. That was fantastic, and really shows how easy it is to operate. I saw people in the chat were saying, wait, like, can I commit this to Git? And it was like, and then right after that, you committed it to Git, and it was like, oh yeah, this thing is actually just a Git commit. That's what this interface is. It's basically an interface for Git. And then the automation of the GitOps operations happen, automatically. So it's really cool. But the big value of this ultimately is beyond just running these pipelines. We're actually bringing the UI. It's a superset of the UI from Argo workflows and Argo events, Argo CD, Argo rollouts. In this view, we especially see Argo workflows and Argo events. And that's something else that if you've done this a lot, setting up those triggers and figuring out why something goes wrong and debugging them, that's a real challenge that I think we've addressed really, really well here at giving this universal view, this universal access. And again, not just in one instance of Argo workflows, but across hundreds or thousands. So I can actually see everything that's going on within my organization, assuming I have the proper permissions to do so. So now that we've deployed that pipeline, so we've installed the runtime, we've created a pipeline to build and deploy it and push our images into our registry. Let's talk about the delivery side, the continuous delivery side. So this is where we're going to be using GitOps to deploy our applications. And we actually thought, I asked Moran what the best way to demonstrate this was. And he said, why don't we show people how we use Codefresh to build and deploy Codefresh? So we're actually going to give you a tour of our internal process. So Moran, why don't you share your screen and you can walk us through it.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. So I really hope that you know the story about sorry, 1 second, let me just begin with sharing screen. Here we go. So I really hope you know the story about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Read the book or saw the movie, one of them. For those who didn't, essentially it's about a boy who wins a very desired golden ticket, which grants him a visit to the greatest chocolate factory and seeing all of the amazing processes. It looks like an amazing amusement park in which chocolate is being made. And the tour is run by Willy Wonka. So today I'm going to play Willy Wonka and take you through a tour through Codefresh Chocolate Software Factory, showing you how do we take sweet code, pack it in beautiful images, continuously deliver and deploy it on our different environments to bring Codefresh Software Delivery Platform to the world. It is basically using CSDP to deliver CSDP or eating our own chocolate. Before jumping to the actual platform, I want to quickly talk and show you one of the projects Codefresh is contributing back to the Algo community and ecosystem, the Codefresh Hub for Argo. The Argo Hub provides reusable templates for Argo workflows, like the heading is saying. And this it's a project that we kickstarted around a month ago at ArgoCon, and is already starting to show value. For example, sending a Slack message, right? Something that we all want to do as part of our pipeline, depending on a successful or failed execution, is becoming an easy task. So you can basically go and take a snippet of code, paste it in your Argo workflow, and you can enjoy this integration very easily. Codefresh is actually maintaining and delivering this project. And let's look on how it is being done. We're going to start the tour at our factory floor. So this is where everything begins. This is where a DevOps admin can have a high-level overview of his entire supply chain to begin with, the entire software supply chain. So all the delivery pipelines that build the different software are actually located here, and it can have great statistics about the success rate, criteria, the last run, success rate, average duration, weekly runs, really kind of condensed information and statistics about the workflow he's running. You can also enjoy the notification drawer, which aggregates events from different Argo projects. So here we can see Argo CD being synced, or an error that we had on the sensor based on because of Argo events. So those are usually not consolidated into one usable view, and that's kind of a very powerful integration that we offer. But let's go back to the Argo Hub. Like, this is what we wanted to see. How do we build it? So let's take just, kind of the build images aspects of it. And here we can see the history of the build of those of these pipelines. So every commit being pushed is being recorded here. We can see statistics about the success and failures and the execution time for it. Jumping into one of those builds, right? You can have like a really high-level overview and kind of get a good understanding on what triggered the commit, right? What actually, it's a webhook that is sent to Argo events. The sensor, the Argo event sensor decompose the data and create, based on this data, it triggers the Argo workflow. This is the entry point for the Argo workflow. This is kind of a very simple workflow in which a repo is being cloned. You can see the code here. And application list is being extracted and the images are being built. And that's a very high level view. If we extract it, we can see the full cycle of the build with all the different images. We can easily go and look for Slack integration, and it's being spotted. We can jump into that, see the log build, see where the image is being pushed to, and that's making debugging really, really easy task. That's making both the developer and the DevOps engineer lives easier, either to see the code having some trouble or the health of the pipeline is not there. This is making this entire process much easier. Going back to the images, like taking another perspective at things, this is where we have the images dashboard. This is the image artifacts dashboard. This is a consolidated view for everything being built by the platform and reported back to the platform. Here we can see, for example, the CSDP, Codefresh Software Delivery Platform, main components. One of them is the GraphQL. It's one of the major components in the system. We can see the application, the Argo CD application it is being deployed to, and which is actually representing our different environments, our different clusters that we deploy this application to. We can see the different commits and the different tags that are being pushed to each and every environment. Digging into that image, we can see the build history, and we can get a better understanding on how and when everything is being built and pushed, right? And like taking, for example, this build, digging into that, we can see the entire traces of the system. For example, the Jira issue, right? It was related to, and the status of it, and the message of it. We can open the link and quickly see the user story. So creating a really nice connectivity between the entire flow of the developer software tool chain and delivery timeline. We can see a connection to the pull request on GitHub, the Git commit. We can see the Algo workflow, which built this image. So everything is really well connected and really visible, tangible. So it makes everything really connected and nicer. Another perspective a DevOps admin might want to look at, right, is the application dashboard. This is where an admin can explore Argo CD application and application set across multiple deployments, monitor statuses, and dig into problematic areas, right? Digging to the application level, like if we take the source code and we're going to open our production, we're going to see the history of all the builds being pushed to all the different builds that we deliver to the production environment. Again, aggregating data from across the software supply chain and putting it all together in one place. And that's pretty much our last stop in the journey. But let's spend a few minutes here. It's not just that we are collecting all the information, we are also using some of the third-party integration we have is looping back the information to the other tools. Say example, GitOps PR. This is where we can see, this is where we can automatically, Codefresh is automatically pushing data back to GitHub and see the gating item for a PR to go. So taking it from that perspective, we can see CI, where the code is being unit tests, it's being lean tests, images are being built, and one can just open it and see the execution flow and track the logs right from GitHub, right? Next stage that the code is passing is E2E testing, a more extensive functional test, system level test that is there to ensure the software quality from a functionality perspective. Next one, and perhaps worth a minute to just stop on this one because this is really important. That's our security pipeline. And it's important to mention that Codefresh, we are taking security really, really seriously. And we have partnered with Snyk to make sure that every image that we provide is being scanned for vulnerabilities. And, you know, it is linked here. Apart from the image scanning we do for the image that we are building, we are also using Snyk, our partnership with Snyk, to static scan the code. So everything is going out with the highest quality of security. Last but not least is the version bump. This is a commit being done automatically. It's part of the workflow to bump the version to the next one. And we can actually go back, and I would like to spend a moment on this one. So this is the bump version commit, right? Simply a change that is automatically pushed to bump the version to the next one. But what I really wanted to spend some time on here is to look at the progressive delivery. And this is where our final player come to play, and that's Argo rollout. This is where we use progressive delivery in order to make sure that we can continuously deliver the application reliably. So for those who are not familiar with Argo rollouts is a progressive delivery mechanism. It means that we can use, in this case, for example, canary strategy in order to make sure that the upgrade process is working correctly. So for example, in this one, our DevOps engineer actually define a list of steps, right, that the controller uses to manipulate the replica set. Each step is being evaluated before a new replica set is promoted to the stable version. And the old version is completely scaled down, meaning we are seeing kind of a transitional phase between the old version and the new based on success and success metrics that, you know, one can define. In the case something goes wrong, the version is being rolled backward to the old version, making sure that, you know, the service level is not affected. And this way we can ensure high level of SLA and SLO and have a confidence in the ability to continuously deliver the code without affecting the service. I really hope that this tool helped explaining Codefresh philosophy, delivering code, and working with the Algo ecosystem, providing a tight integration and cross-Algo project in a multi-cluster distributed environment. Codefresh is providing the backbone and connecting tissue to the entire software supply chain. And I hope that helped a bit to explain it. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. That was just really cool to see everything together, see how it works, and to really see how we use Codefresh to deploy Codefresh. Let me share my screen again. The thing that a lot of people were commenting in the chat, I think somebody said, this is wicked, this is awesome. You guys are making my day. I really appreciate those great comments. Love to see them. Again, to kind of bring back two things. One, we're working across many instances. So when we were filtering our application deployment status, we were doing it across many instances. So I could say, well, I've got 1,000, different deployment targets I'm dealing with. I could filter and view the applications deployed on 1,000 different targets and only look for the ones that have problems or the ones that are out of date or whatever. Really brings so much clarity to the software delivery process, and it's across teams, it's across organizations, really powerful. And then the other element was that element of bringing everything together. So this dashboard that shows you essentially a super set of information from Argo CD and Argo rollouts, but not just those, also from Jira and also from Git. And so seeing the pull requests, seeing the committers, seeing what PRs were being dealt with, seeing what Jira issues were being dealt with. We've actually seen in our trials with people, they've been inviting some of their product people into these dashboards, not just their release teams, not just their engineers, but even additional team members are able to come in and just see the status of things, and then baking in the rollouts, the deployment status, the canary releases, just really powerful stuff. Keep those questions coming, keep the comments going. I see a lot of people saying, is this being recorded? Is this being recorded? Don't worry, it's being recorded. We're going to post it. It'll be out there for you, no worries. So answering those daily questions is something that before this platform, people maybe had to just jump around between a lot of tools. And oftentimes, if you just ask the question, like, what's currently in production, people end up jumping around between their CI/CD tools, their GitHub, their ticketing issues. They're trying to figure out what's going on. And if you're dealing with a regression or a breaking change, suddenly the time it takes to do the detective work where you're jumping around between all these tools, it starts to feel like a very long time. It feels like a lot of work. And basically, in this old model, we really relied on our release managers to be the correlator of information and to figure out how it all correlated together to figure out the cost of these things. Whereas in this new platform, all of those elements are in a single view. So this is really bringing the enterprise experience to Argo. It's bringing the scale experience to Argo and giving you that premium offering that you can use. So we're really excited to share it with you again. We've gone through, we've installed the runtime. We did it in a GitOps friendly way, right? We deployed it and we had everything written to Git. Fantastic. We created a delivery pipeline, and the creation of that pipeline created a Git commit. So everything was just deployed directly into Git, and that's how it was actually synced to our cluster, and what triggered all of the changes to go forward is just a Git commit. And then we looked at a little bit about deploying applications, app delivery at scale, and how that works. And again, these are all just done through Git commits, even though there's UI and tools that help you do it. So really powerful experience and adoption for this journey. And I hope we've given you the flavor of it. And as we get to the end of the event, and we've got a few other sessions here that we're going to be going through that are going to be really cool and exciting, so stick around for them. I think hopefully you'll be inspired to go and try this for yourself and actually start playing around with it. One more note on that scalability. We talked about this ability to view applications across runtimes, but even just managing runtimes is so much easier because they're all defined in Git. And if I were to go through and do an update, all that does is it changes the desired version in Git. And so then the platform actually rolls out those new versions. So this means I can roll forward, and in Git, I can actually do a rollback. I can undo the commit and downgrade my platform, potentially. So if I'm managing many runtimes, and a runtime, in this case, the Codefresh runtime, the Codefresh Software Delivery Platform runtime, it includes the entire Argo stack, right? And it's all baked in with this integration layer, and it's all integrated into a single platform. So each runtime is everything I need to build and deploy and deliver software. And these could be running anywhere. They could be on-prem, they could be behind the firewall, they could be in a virtual private cloud, they could be sitting, in a storefront in a mall in Reseda, California, wherever it is. They could be on my laptop. But I get the view of all of it. And because of this unique hybrid model, it's kept secure and straightforward. So I think that we've addressed a lot of these challenges. We talked about at the application level, how you get that unparalleled clarity and visibility into what's going on. So if you're dealing with problems, you're dealing with a regression, you can find what's going on immediately across infrastructure. And that delivery tooling, it's all GitOps operated, it's all data driven, it's all clear. So the end result is that your software teams should be able to go high velocity with all of their services. Now you can deploy multiple times a day because you have the confidence that you're gonna be able to always tell what's going on. You're gonna be able to drill down into any area of development, any application, and figure out exactly what happened. If you need to do a rollback, you can do that. We're enabling you to do those canary releases. So you're gonna have more confidence that if you do a release and something goes wrong, it's gonna be caught and the rollback will be applied automatically. So just a really, really powerful way to build and deploy software. And I hope that you feel like we're delivering on that promise that I gave at the top of the session. We think this is the future of software delivery. Let's go see. Tell me if you think we got it right. I really want to hear about it. Feel free to blow up the chat and keep that going. This has been the Codefresh Software Delivery Platform. We want you to conquer DevOps with this. Thank you again so much, Moran, Laurent, for sharing those demos and giving us the deep dive on the platform. I know you guys are going to be hanging out in the chat and answering questions as we go into these other sessions. Raziel, any final cap off words you want to add?
No, thank you so much. It's been a great demo and walkthrough. Again, super exciting. We've been working for so long on bringing this out. So great job, everyone.
Thank you, Raziel. I appreciate it. So with that, I think we're ready for our partner panel. And so Marcus, I'm going to hand the mic to you.
All right. Okay, so this is super, super exciting. Hello, everyone. My name is Marcus, and I recently joined Codefresh at an exciting time, I must add. And not only due to our technology and the direction we're going, which we all just had some incredible insights into, but also because Codefresh is investing heavily in its partners and partner ecosystem, really recognizing the value of what that creates for all customers. So in fact, to continue along with more exciting news, we are getting ready to launch our partner program very soon. So stay tuned for that. And to give a slight teaser into how that is going to look, we have a power pack panel with some amazing partners, as you can see, that we uniquely work with to provide a compelling, better together story. And that's what we're here to discuss. So let's jump right in with starting with introductions, who you are, what company you work for, and something brief that the audience should know about either your company or anything regarding the work you're doing. So starting with Carrie, ladies first.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carrie. I'm an SRE over at Noble9. Our main mission at Noble9, I would say, is to help move this cultural shift forward. We really want to help prevent the constant firefighting against incidences and outages that really cut into your work-life balance. And I think SLOs are a really good way to do that because you can use it as an universal language to help make better decisions on how to prioritize your work. We really want to help you hit like a realistic reliability goal that's scalable and that like really helps balance out that work-life balance that has been kind of traditionally more on the work side for a long time. So yeah, I think with SLOs, we're going to have a better situational awareness when you have more meaningful data about, more situational awareness about the data that you're having before you make any big decisions. And with that, I guess the most exciting thing that's coming up for us is we're doing an SLO Conf this year. It's the second annual SLO Conf. We're really trying to encourage a lot of first-time speakers there. We're really trying to help build the community. It's kind of in line with how SLOs are, putting customers first. We want to put the engineers first within the community as well, and help encourage people to speak up and just build that knowledge share. So as you can probably tell, I was a first-time speaker last year. Still a little shaky at it, but I'm learning. If you want to know more info about that, it's sloconf.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Carrie. So great to have you. Kyle, you're up.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kyle. I have been an application security engineer at companies in Silicon Valley and around the world. I've worked as an infrastructure consultant, and I've been a full stack engineer at startups. And yeah, kind of been all over the place. I love security. I have a bachelor's of science in computing security with a focus in malware reverse engineering and computer system forensics. Now I work at the developer-oriented security company Sneak, and I'm loving it. I've been a Sneak user for a very long time, and it's helped me in a ton of ways. So I'm actually really glad to join the team. Loving every day of my work. Get to talk to awesome people such as yourself and share what I've learned about security through my trials and tribulations, so to speak. So extremely happy to be here and super glad to be talking to the rest of you.
Awesome. So glad to have you. Ian?
Yeah, so Ian Buchanan, I'm a partner engineer at Atlassian. I work with companies like the ones around this virtual table, and we build integrations to Atlassian products wherever we can. I also get to advise our internal teams on what kinds of use cases and technology that we're seeing through these kinds of partner interactions. And one of the things that I've been very excited to work with in the Jira team is a pain point we're noticing about how poorly development teams understand their own tool chains. And what we're hoping to do is bridge from the technical wiring of integrations that we all do with each other, or that we've seen here in the Argo platform, but we want to bring that up to a level of human understanding. And so the visibility of flow through all of these tools is really critical to what we want to do with Jira.
Yeah, awesome. Excellent. Robert?
Hello, my name is Robert Serchia. I'm a technical evangelist at SUSE, part of the SUSE and Ranch community. My job is to take technologies around open source and get people excited in using them. So some of the things that we're focused here this year at SUSE is a lot of security, and very much so more so with the edge. You can find what we're doing out at SUSE at community.suse.com. So you can reach out and say hi.
Awesome. Yeah, really, really cool to have you. I remember working with Rancher prior to SUSE at Google Cloud. So it's so great to be back again with you all. And finally, James Bland.
Hello, everyone. James Bland. I'm the Global Tech Lead of DevOps here at AWS. I hope everybody's heard about AWS by now, but I'll give you the quick 30-second elevator pitch. So AWS is the most comprehensive and broadest cloud platform. We have over 200 services that are available globally in our data centers. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, James. Perfect. Well, it's really cool. I've worked with either your company or folks from your company at one point or the past couple of years. So it's great to have us all back again, some great context to work from. And now, really taking that context and placing it within the content of Codefresh and all of the good news that we just were talking about in our platform. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in. So Kyle, DevSecOps, right? Huge, just taken off completely in the last couple of years. And so when you look at Sneak, and from my understanding, Sneak is used to scan OSS, Argo, CD, and the team is working on adding scanning to other Argo tools. Obviously, scanning is very important, but there are also some big implications on security by using GitOps. What are some of the security concerns you're seeing and some of the security benefits of using GitOps, and what is the security impact of this on GitOps?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I actually think, as we see the pace of development increase, we see more integrations into the terminals, CLI, right? The feedback loops that CI/CD programs often kick back, whether it's in GitHub Actions or something else. But I think Argo is just extremely complementary, especially from our perspective at Sneak, treating DevOps as a process rather than a role, and actually, getting this feedback quickly, getting it almost instantly, is something that we prioritize as developers, want to spend more time working, right? Like as a developer, we want to spend more time working in our terminals and in our IDEs rather than, clicking through all this stuff. So I think, having a declarative version based, way to basically deploy your environment configurations, whether that's Helm or Customize or anything else, whether it's just plain YAML, that is really compatible with what we're doing here at Sneak, and the ability to find those vulnerabilities, right, like through GitOps, right, through these sort of processes being rolled out. I think it's just a win-win, right? So I think as we see more sophisticated attacks happen in the supply chain, it just makes sense to sort of have this sort of from our perspective, it makes sense. This partnership is just a no-brainer for us, right? Because we're able to basically version all these deploys, take a look at the open source contents of everything and basically secure GitOps, right? Secure CI/CD pipelines, and just sort of make sure that, supply chain attacks, you can rest easy and feel secure because of, GitOps and the integration with, open source software security software such as Sneak.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, when you look at GitOps software delivery as a pull rather than a push, right? And that's where the security really comes in important, and security plays an important role, because you don't want to just leave open doors, right, to just any vulnerabilities. I think this also ties in really well, to Robert, what you guys are doing in regards to, and when I say you guys, SUSE Rancher, right, in regards to creating value for customers when it comes to deploying clusters at the edge, specifically using GitOps at the edge. What are your thoughts there in terms of deploying clusters at the edge? What do you see as unique value of using GitOps at the edge?
Well, when it comes to GitOps at the edge, what we're seeing is not every cluster is available at all times. And so deploying and updating clusters are kind of done through non-traditional ways. So when we think about it, sometimes it takes an individual walking into a room, plugging things in, and to deploy, which is really non-traditional, but it's guaranteeing that particular state that that engineer needs to have it at as they're deploying it. So as we're seeing it, it's at the edge. GitOps is one of the core, I would say, concepts that we're seeing our customers, even our community members, push towards and strive towards GitOps, because we need to know that declarative state, and it's ensured and it's assured, to work the way we need it to work. So we're seeing that more and more towards the edge, and we're looking at deepening that partnership with you guys when it comes to GitOps at the edge.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we look along, continue along this discussion, when it comes to just information aggregation and how specifically Codefresh is bringing together the different projects of Argo, right, from workflows, events to Argo CDN rollouts, that's where the value we're bringing in one, under one platform for the enterprise. I'm going to bring this question to Ian. What do you see as the key value in bringing Jira issues front and center when it comes to DevOps?
I think this is kind of a subtle thing. I think at the tactical or technical level, the way to make this magic all connect up is to just mention Jira issue keys in commits or branch names. But I think that what I've been encouraging people to do for many years is to think about what a set of changes really means. And if you can bind the set of changes that you're working on at a technical level as a Git branch, for example, to something of value for the business, then you're really kind of locking your batch sizes together, so that you're making sure that the branch means there's some business value that's going on here. That means the builds on it can be related back to that. That means the deployments mean something to the business. And then using these kind of units of value instead of just the technical pieces of this means that we're managing flow better. And that's kind of what the DevOps is all about, at least from a collaborative perspective. That we can see this flow kind of relies on us as developers to be doing these right things at the level of our daily practices, like keeping that value in mind. So I think what's magical about this is then we can relate the kinds of things like security checks, deployments, and artifacts that are created back to the units of business value.
Yeah, absolutely. And Carrie, when we let's say we were to focus specifically on Argo CD, how could SLOs help inform or affect continuous delivery?
I don't know specifically on continuous delivery. SLOs are more of a universal language, so it's pretty agnostic to the way that you set up your architecture, whether that's continuous delivery or you do everything manually, you build manual deployments, whatever you want to do. It's really just about how you monitor your systems. Because if you think about it this way, like SLOs are really meant to translate your logs and metrics and all that monitoring data you have into customer impact rates, so that you can help, prioritize your workload and your tech debt and all of that. So I guess like you might want to consider either if things are more distributed, like in Argo, you can do like aggregated metrics and get more of a bird's eye view of everything, or have like one individual SLO for each component. But as long as you're getting more meaningful information out of your data, I think you're on the right track.
Yeah, absolutely. And James, when we're first of all, we're really excited about all the work that we're doing with you and AWS and that partnership. And so when you if you were to bring us home here, right, in terms of how Codefresh and AWS presents something extremely special for customers and plays really well for our Better Together story. If you look at, Codefresh Software Delivery Platform, when you run a workflow, each step runs in its own pod. So you can use multiple architectures and cluster auto scaling to expand workloads. What are some recommendations people should be aware of when they do cluster scaling or auto scaling in this way? And what are your thoughts regarding that in general?
Yeah, I actually think we're at like awesome times when it comes to the technology, right? Because when you look at it, like the Codefresh platform that you guys have actually built, using Argo CD, deploying applications into AWS, this is very different dynamic than what people had traditionally on premises. Because in on premises, like when you actually needed to scale a cluster, what you need to do is purchase new hardware, or look for available VMs somewhere. But then now in the dynamics in cloud, we're looking at everything is defined as software. And that also, that means also your infrastructure. So from an Argo perspective, you can continue to deploy your applications into AWS, and then AWS with the autoscaler will automatically grow that cluster based on the workloads or the pods that you're trying to deploy into them. So some best practices that I have for it is try to use containers, or try to use images that are for your underlying host OS that are stock or standard generic images. Don't try to customize them too much, because then once you customize them, what ends up happening is that then you'll end up having to manage and maintain those customizations as well, right? And then basically creating another pipeline for those customizations. So try to maintain a generic OS or host infrastructure if you can, meaning that try to leverage like Amazon Linux 2 or an Ubuntu image that we provide for you standard. But if you do have to customize, then obviously work on creating a pipeline to build those customizations in, so it's part of your orchestration when you're deploying your cluster.
Yeah, absolutely. This is excellent. So, we kind of breezed through some questions. I want to kind of keep it open-ended, and as we near the closing, I wish we had more time, but this has been so great and such amazing context to work from. So, I'm going to kind of, whoever wants to jump in here, what do you see the benefits, or what benefits will do you think people will realize, or customers can realize, if they adopt these technologies around, either it could be DevOps, CD, GitOps, Argo? Does anyone have any insights or anything they want to add from what they just heard?
I think as far as GitOps goes, I think it's going to be a very pivotal part of security, right? Whether it's infrastructure as code scanning, like what we're working on, or whether it's basically checking own code with SAST. So whether it's open source analysis or SAST, integrating that into GitOps, making it responsive, like a meaningful experience where you basically know with these results, right, whether you're good to go or not, integrating that into CI/CD and just making it really digestible, I think is really what fascinates me about the advent of GitOps as somebody who loves code, loves writing code, loves hacking code. So I think as we see, extremely sophisticated supply chain attacks and typo squatting on package names and, project takeovers, repo takeovers, I think it's going to be, really important. And I feel like I'm saying the same thing I said earlier, but I think it's going to be extremely important to have a declarative version-based way of managing, your security vulnerabilities, your infrastructure, your deployments, your applications. And I think GitOps is very clearly the step in the right direction towards securing that future.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else?
Yeah, Kyle, I'd pick up on that and say that, and not just for security, that I know that for Atlassian, a GitOps type approach has really helped us hit a whole lot of audit kinds of requirements that are required for us as a public company, over to GDPR, that all of these things become a lot easier when there is really one authoritative log of all of these kinds of changes. So, yes to security. And so, yeah, I really hope other companies can pick up on this as well.
Definitely. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, what we're seeing is that product owners in companies that have a lot more faith in the system when GitOps is involved, right? Because it's declarative, it says code, they know what they're to expect. So when there's a push, especially to infrastructure, product owners and the business side of things have a higher level of confidence from what we've seen, in these adoptions of new principles, because they understand what they're going to get when that's pushed. And what they push to one environment is what they're going to get to the next. And that's what they love, not fearing the unknown of a push.
I think too, one last quick thing is what I really see with all the GitOps tools is it really just simplifies the whole process and lets you really focus on like the end user, your customer, just the people in the process, which I really think is kind of like where everything is moving in the future as well.
Yeah, absolutely. James, you want to add any last thing in terms of just what, if we were to look at the partnership of what we're doing, a lot of exciting things, what value that will bring to customers, of us having that better together story to, in terms of AWS and Codefresh?
Yeah, well, I was actually going to make a comment on the GitOps thing, because that's a near and dear to my heart. Yeah, I see an evolution of GitOps happening. Like right now, it's everything Kubernetes. Like as you deploy, you can actually manage Kubernetes. I see the evolution of it, which is coming soon, right, is being able to control all things within AWS with it, like defining it as a Helm chart, using a controller to, like spin up, like an API gateway or even an S3 bucket. So being able to handle that through like a GitOps workflow through Kubernetes using, a customized controller. But yeah, definitely happy with the relationship and the partnership that we have with Codefresh, and looking forward to this launch.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. It's really been a pleasure having you on. We're just so excited to do more with you in 2022. And yeah, I think it's going to be great. And again, thank you all for taking the time. We very much appreciate having you on the panel. And with that said, let's hear from our customers.
Thank you so much. Great work, everybody. Really appreciate you all joining the panel and walking us through your thoughts and really getting us supercharged. So lots of discussion going on in the chat. Before I introduce our next panel, I want to mention a lot of people have been asking about these t-shirts. Be sure to follow us at Codefresh. We do giveaways of these shirts periodically. I just did a giveaway on my Twitter not too long ago, and I think we got and do a report on. I think we gave away like another 200 shirts or something. So that's definitely going on. Also, if you haven't had a chance, and you want a deeper dive demo, I know a lot of people are asking questions. What about this? What about that tool? What about this thing that we do? Go to our website, request a demo, and we'll give the team, the SAs will meet with you and walk you through any of those personal things that you're doing and you want to highlight. You can do that in a personal demo. So go get one. And get on the calendar right now. Those spots are starting to fill up. So don't wait. Open it in another tab, and request that demo while we're talking. And finally, a lot of people asking about the certification. Level 1 certification has been out for a little while now and has been just incredibly popular. You've been seeing people on Twitter, on LinkedIn, posting their certifications and waving those flags. We are working on the next level of the certification. We're hoping to have it done this quarter, probably launching beginning of next quarter. So with all of that preamble said, let's introduce our customer panel. These are Argo customers. These are Codefresh customers representing Hover and Pismo. And maybe we can go one by one. So Ethan, you've been a Codefresh customer for a long time. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm a staff systems engineer at Hover. Our company lets you take photos of your house and turn that into a measurement accurate model, a 3D model. And yeah, the Codefresh has been definitely a key component and accelerating our CI/CD process.
Perfect, Ethan. And I'm excited. We're going to talk maybe a little bit about some of those machine learning use cases that you guys have that are really unique. Renato, you're coming from Pismo. Would you introduce yourself and what Pismo does?
Yeah, all right. So my name is Renato Stoko. I'm a principal engineer at Pismo. and we are a payment processing company here, which we call TechFin. We process like financial transactions like Visa and MasterCard, and also fast remote payments transactions that happen online. So we process all kinds of financial data here, and CI and CG for us is a critical step here because we need to achieve high availability. So this talk is all about us here because it's really important, the CD part. Yeah,
perfect. Thank you, Renato. And I'm also joined by a bit of a legend, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Isaac Roth, who is a personal hero for I think all of us at Codefresh, and sits and one of our investors. Isaac, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Isaac, and I guess the reason I earned this fame was sort of the father of OpenShift. I created and launched Red Hat OpenShift as a result of Red Hat acquiring my startup, which was called Makara. And this was over 10 years ago now. And since then have been an active part of the cloud native and Kubernetes and platform as a service and distributed computing world. So I think I'm here to provide some sort of view on the overall market landscape.
Yeah, I know you've kept your finger on the pulse really well. So we're looking forward to your comments. So the first question I have for the panel is really about your journey. So a lot of you, I mean, Ethan and Renato, you guys are coming from older CI/CD tools, adopting Codefresh, adopting Argo more especially, and starting to do these GitOps deployments. Ethan, why don't we start with you? Tell us a little bit about why you decided to switch from those old tools, what you guys were using, what inspired you, and what some of the benefits have been since you've switched.
Well, we were using Circle CI, I think, before, and its lack of ability to do any sort of complex or branching or other sort of workflow was a real limitation for us. And then in addition, we had CI/CD jobs that just couldn't really fit in their executors. But Codefresh itself was at the time we were pre-Kubernetes, and Codefresh itself was a good lift to get into the Kubernetes space. But we wanted to have a more controlled delivery process, and through Terraform and other tools like that, we were already very used to sort of GitOps lifestyle when it came to provisioning infrastructure. And Argo CD really just gave us the same sort of like workflow, but when it came to deploying infrastructure or deploying software. So those were really the key things that got us into both of them.
Yeah, and Renato, I think some of that resonates for you for the reasons that you guys switched from some old tools. So what were you using, and what have been some of the benefits that you've realized?
Yeah, so for us, we were working pretty much with Jenkins. And in our case, the main reasons to go to Codefresh and Argo was because, as I mentioned, for us, the availability is a critical factor here. So before Codefresh and Argo, we'll be working with the service mesh network rules to do canary deploys and wait routing. And handling those network traffic, it's really painful. So handling yourself, it's really hard. So, and we made a pretty good job here, but it was not something that we wanted. So we wanted something that was open source, tested for everyone, and something that made it easy to orchestrate that open source. So that was our takeaway. We knew that GitOps and Argo and Codefresh was the way to go in order to have more, to make our deploy process safer and faster. So that was the main reason. And then we moved it to Codefresh, and it just happened the same way what we were thinking. So the deploys were even more smoothly, was easy to just get into there. And we maintained the same features that we had because of this complex CD. So yeah, it was perfect for us. So this was the main reason for us. We needed something simple, and with the complexity that we had from, without the complexity that we had from our past CG process.
Yeah, simplifying complexity seems to be the reoccurring theme. And Isaac, I know this is something that you've seen across the industry, just this increasing complexity from microservices, from Kubernetes, and simplifying it. Maybe there are some pain points that you could speak to around those things.
Well, yeah, I feel like we go in waves, and we all desire simplification. So the original form of that is like, I'll write a script. Eventually, it's so complicated, you need a framework. And so you have framework like Kubernetes, a framework. But before that, we had other frameworks. And so here we now have the need to do deployments and do them in a certain way and do them controlled and have auditability and reduce the risk around them. And so originally we would write scripts, and now we have frameworks, and eventually we can put beautiful user experiences on top of those frameworks. And whether that's happening, I mean, you see that happening in the cloud, way back to OpenShift, right? We had put a beautiful user experience on top of a bunch of infrastructure. Now we're able to do that with a deployment system, putting a beautiful user experience on top of a lot of parts. And why can't you just do this in the first place? Well, because as developers, we need the flexibility underneath, right? We need the flexibility to have access to the framework, to the things below the framework, to the plugins, to the scripts, so that we can customize it for the unique needs of our application. That's what creates the tension. So you're always like trying to expand things and make them better and plug in. And then you want to have a beautiful and easy user experience on top of that, because if it's only one person can remember some arcane commands and scripts to make it work, then that's not scalable, right? It doesn't give you the kind of speed that Ethan Renato were speaking about.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I actually, somebody I was talking to on Twitter the other day was saying that Kubernetes is complex. And I said, yeah, like Kubernetes is probably the most complex way to run your services and infrastructure, except for every other way to do it. It is complex, but it's complex in a way that's actually easier to do in many ways than what we've been doing in the past. And so this kind of opens up the complexity of GitOps, and GitOps is really becoming accessible now. And this is something we talk about a lot. I always say to people, we didn't invent GitOps, but we're making it accessible. We're like the Henry Ford of GitOps. He didn't invent the car, but he got it into everybody's hands. So Ethan, maybe we can start with you. I wanted to hear about some of the things that have maybe been challenging for people to adopt GitOps, and what's helped get them over the hump to actually start doing their deployments in that way at Hover.
The largest challenge there is just trying to get the devs to realize that DevOps means them, not me. That honestly, GitOps has sort of been a bridge to help them understand, no, this is just code. It's just commits. It's not, there's nothing new about this. Yes, it's YAML, and that's maybe not the most beautiful language ever, but it gives them, it was really more the other way around, that we adopted GitOps in order to get more buy-in, in order to get more participation from developers. Because when speaking of complexity, one of the big ways that developers have tried to reduce complexity is by going to microservices. But then you have 99 problems instead of just one monolith. And so what that does is that actually pushes complexity into the space between all of the services. And GitOps was a way for us to help get everybody on the same page and see where that complexity was and take some manner of responsibility for it.
Is that your experience as well, Renato?
Yes, exactly. So I pretty much use the same words here. The adoption here, it's more about bringing the infrastructure work to the developers. So this is something that I always try to advocate here at Pismo, to bring infrastructure close and Kubernetes close to the developers. So usually what we see without GitOps is that like we have a pipeline that just magically works. But having this GitOps approach gives us the opportunity for the devs to see how things works. And this really helps everyone. For example, understanding the resources that you're running, where you're running, and this can lead to more resilient applications because the devs know where they run, they know what they use, they know where what the impacts they can do when doing a deploy that before was something that was a black box for them, like only the platform team or the SRE team, usually a team dedicated to that knew. So this for me pretty much explains and describes like how things works and makes it like easy for all of devs to understand what's going on and even help like they can see a problem and understand because as I mentioned, I know it's YAML is not that pretty thing, but it's not something that hard. So if you code, you know how to do that thing. It's just a matter of understanding the basics of the syntax and you can help just on day one. Like, you know, oh, it's something is wrong, you can just fix it. And so it's for me, it's a great way to make this distributed along over the company in this process.
Yeah, that sort of proof is in the pudding, as you're saying. Go ahead, Isaac.
It's just like it's such an exciting thing when someone can join your team and they can understand, as Renato just said, how it works, right? And that's the beauty, like the promise of source control in the first place was, hey, I can get the same source everyone else has, and so I can build the software. When we went to now we're cloud deployed systems, it's really difficult to do that. And the beautiful thing about GitOps is the instructions, the description for how it deploys is in the repo, right? So I can do it the same way everyone else. And so that leads to this incredible productivity. I was so excited when I first implemented this because you could add somebody to your team and you're like, hey, yeah, you can ship in your first week. You can. And you can do it the same way everyone else does. That is this productivity game that's amazing, but you're getting that also with a reduction in risk because invariably something's going to happen. Something bad's going to go wrong. Someone's going to commit something incorrect. They're going to misconfigure something. When that happens, then you go chasing, okay, who did the deploy? Who did the configure? Who changed the pipeline? And when you put it all in GitOps, then the answer to that is in the system. You have a full audit trail. You have a full check. And so you can have continuous delivery or very frequent delivery of your software without frequent delivery of risk, right? and problems. And if you do deliver some problems, you can figure out where they came from and who did them and where to look more quickly than chasing everyone around with their own bespoke version of something.
And on that note of bringing people on board, like Argo CD plus Codefresh allows a visibility, like, yes, the GitOps gives you the controlled state, and that's very valuable. But there's a process to a deploy, you know, whether you're rolling out canaries or doing blue-green or even just like the progressive rollout that Kubernetes defaults to, what's going on with my application is a harder question in some ways to answer than it was in the good old days of it's always running on these machines and that's just the way it works. And so being able to actually watch the full Kubernetes deploy and every bit of magic that goes on, and even just being able to see these are the Kubernetes objects, to see graphically, these are the Kubernetes objects that make up my deployment, has been a huge win for us in terms of being able to bring folks who aren't necessarily fully into this world up to speed on what's going on. And as Renato said with the distribution, the other thing is that there's just not, you can't scale a company rapidly if you can't scale this kind of infra work. And it's something that these tools allow you to democratize and thus allow your company to grow far more rapidly than it could otherwise.
Well put, Ethan. I mean, I think you encapsulated it perfectly. We're we're pretty much at closing here. I want to give a final word to each of you. And Renato, you guys are dealing in a high security environment. What's some of the impact you've had from adopting GitOps or the hybrid model that we've talked about that's been
It was just me.
No, he disappeared.
I think he was getting to the question about working in a high security environment.
Yeah, I can answer to that. So in the aspect of time. So for in this security part, for us, the GitOps and this the new way of dealing with deploys and stuff, it makes life easier, because with this GitOps approach and Argo and Codefresh, we can have the deploys happening into a local runner inside a cluster. So this really helps for example, PCI certifications in order to process financial payment stuff. So this really helps, because since the runner is inside your cluster, it's in your protected environment. So nothing else and nothing enters your cluster from the outside world. So everything happens inside. And also, in fact, just for the runner, but for the actual process itself, it's really better, because you have all the states. So you have all the configurations that will be applied. You have immutable states, so someone can just intercept your deploy and change the configuration on the fly, because that's not how it works. So it has to go through the pull request, all the validations. So the validations, for example, from a static analysis code, even other reviewers like your peers or security peer, if something is really down to display. So this really helps in the security part, because you can have the audit and all the validations on top of our deploy. So that really really works for us. So it really helps in this terms of financial data and security.
Thanks, Renato. And Ethan, you guys are dealing with this unique use case around machine learning. You guys have tons of data that you have to deal with. And one of the things that I'm excited about, coming from Codefresh, Codefresh Classic, those pipelines run really quickly, but and they've been pretty scalable. And you've had to deal with some really high requirements in this new workflow model. Of course, we're going to be able to take advantage of many Kubernetes, each step basically runs in its own pod, and you're able to deal with potentially more data even than we could previously, while also bringing in stuff like, GPUs and stuff to help with those cards. Maybe tell us about some of your largest kind of pipelines and how big are those data requests? How much memory are they consuming? And you're on mute.
We've gone through a couple of iterations on that. When we just ported from Jenkins directly to Codefresh, which was just using small 16 gigs of RAM executors, we observed something on the order of like a 10x speed improvement. It used to take hours. It completed in like 20 minutes. And then, of course, they demanded more and more. And so we started to use Codefresh driving this thing called Pachyderm in order to have really large regression processes against gigabyte-sized, multi-gigabyte-sized data sets. And our next evolution, which we're incredibly excited about, is in the Codefresh 2.0 world, is going to be to be able to move those into sort of from Pachyderm back into a more like Codefresh specific environment, so that we can do more advanced things based off of various states in those tests, so that we can evaluate more corner cases, and I'll still do that in a way that allows developers to not have to spend their entire day waiting for tests to complete.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so Ethan, Renato, thank you so much for joining as Argo customers, as Codefresh customers, and telling us a little about your story. I hope we can get deeper into your stories here soon, but I'll let you guys sign off, and I'll ask Isaac to stick around.
I'll join down here. Thank you guys. Thanks, Ethan. Thanks, Renato. It's been great.
Thank you, guys.
Great working with you so far.
So now Raziel is coming back, and we have this kind of final session to talk about some of the themes and motivations of this platform that we've done. And maybe the first topic that we can talk about is GitOps. Or Raziel, do you have somewhere else you'd rather start?
No, I think that's a great topic. I think we've seen GitOps really kind of picking up, and it's kind of the broader trend, I think, of having everything as a code. We for years have been kind of used to write our code and store it in the Git repository, and now we're seeing that we're not only storing our code in a code repository, we're also storing the manifest of the application. We're also seeing now how it's becoming more and more common to also store in the source code how the infrastructure should be. So it is exciting to see how we helping and how this trend is evolving over time.
It's crazy, but there was a time when you didn't even store your dependencies in the repository. Right? There was a manifest that was stored separately, and that that was one of the first waves of let's put stuff in the repository. Let's put the manifest in there, and then what were the sort of build instructions. We're coming full circle here.
Yeah, it's something that as an initiative, I feel like GitOps has really taken off, and Codefresh has been running GitOps Con in partnership with the CNCF and Red Hat and a few others, and we've got another one coming up in the EU. And then we've kind of published this standard set of best practices at Open GitOps, which is a CNCF property or CNCF project that we're running with a few others, and really standardizing the approach to GitOps. And I feel like if this new platform, some of the vision was really to extend off of those principles and say, what if the interface for running an installation was actually just an interface for Git? And what was Git first, and it's not infrastructure first, it's Git first. And so the infrastructure is always reflecting that. That's such a cool value. And I know there are a lot of horror stories of people saying, a lot of downtime over the last few years. I think AWS had an outage and a few others had outages. Cloudflare had an outage that were caused by people making manual changes against production. And they just flubbed a keystroke. So it didn't go through version control. And suddenly tracking that change down, there's only one person that knows what went wrong, but they don't even know they caused something wrong. So they took hours and hours and hours to fix. So another big motivation, maybe we can talk about this for a second, was just helping people figure out what went wrong. We all release software, we need high availability, and you want to be able to release changes quickly. And if something goes wrong, if you can address it quickly, within 2 minutes, within 3 minutes, then you have just a lot more confidence. So maybe we can just talk about the confidence side of it.
I fully agree with you. I think, as you mentioned, the first aspect is really applying the GitOps fundamentals on all the DevOps. In a sense, in today's, we're relying so much on our pipelines, right? We're deploying software all the time. We're relying so much on our pipelines. We want to make sure that our pipelines are fully described and stored in Git, not just the YAML. Everything around the YAML too, the events, the triggers, the parameters, everything you want to store, because we are relying on this pipeline to help us deploy software, to help us fix issues, to help us introduce new features and so on. So really applying the GitOps fundamentals, not just on the application manifest, but also on the pipeline and on the DevOps, is really take the GitOps also to the next level. And I agree with you. The other aspect is providing a full transparency into everything that has been deployed. Because as we deploy manifest as we update the manifest of the application, the change is not just moving the image from this tag to the other. It's what has been changed from this image tag to the other image tag. Which commit actually we're pushing. Or this commit being scanned for security vulnerabilities. Or this commit has been tested. Which Jira ticket has been resolved and so on. Providing this level of transparency is crucial in the pace of deployments that we're doing today. Because you want to see what's going on, what's deployed, what happened, being able to roll back. So super excited about bringing them all together now in a one platform built on top of Argo project. It's really fascinated by how fast this project is being pushed by the community, developed by the community, and adopted by the community, and bringing this in a platform that really makes the adoption of Algo and unlock the full potential of it, it's super exciting.
We're toward the end of this webinar, and maybe this is a good time for a story. That there was a day when I was sort of an application smoke jumper, and I think Raziel was in a similar situation. And I had access to a tool that was a great introspection tool. And so people would call us in and, hey, we put this kind of X-ray machine on the system and try to figure out what's wrong. So I remember one time being called, and it was 11 p.m. and they said, hey, we have a problem. You need to get to the data center. So I went to the airport, took a midnight plane to Seattle, drove to a suburb of Seattle, where I went to the data center of a very large, still existent North American telephone company. And they were having very significant problems. Everything was done. I walk into this conference room. There are 3 pizzas spread out over the table. There's a whiteboard full of scribble. There's 12 people in the room who are very, very tired. And there is a person who is documenting on the whiteboard every change that was made by every person going backward in time from the point of the outage. And all the people sitting around the table are looking up in various systems to find each little thing that could be changed. So this person was creating what is essentially available today in an automated fashion through the dashboard that's being launched today. You know, that they were doing it manually by hand
from
with
memory.
a team of 12 people.
Yeah, geez.
No, with a team of 12 people, like searching and looking at change logs and system logs and file system logs, you know, combing through systems to try to find, and the reason they were doing that is because when things went wrong, the first question that everyone in that room asked was, what changed?
What changed? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, gosh, I mean, that perfectly illustrates the point, doesn't it? Like, all those people basically had to correlate across organization, across teams to figure out what went wrong. And like this is another element that we're bringing into the platform is more progressive delivery. So blue-green deployments, canary deployments. And I think, you know, sometimes I've heard people before say like, oh, well, you know, I use feature flagging. So like, why would I need that? And it's like, well, that's actually a different job. Like feature flags, you can enable, disable, you can run tests and things that way. That's great. But the canary release, for example, is really, let's limit the blast radius of something that goes wrong and then automatically roll it back. And that's a little bit different. And it's not something you can always catch with feature flags. So
it complements each other though. Both, I think, the canary and blue-green deployment and the applicative layer of the feature flagging. I clearly see the need for both. I see the need of, you know, rolling out the images, the changes in a progressive manner, and then on top of it start, you know, exposing these features and turn it on in a progressive way too. So I do see this not as the same thing, but definitely complementing each other, giving another layer of confidence for an organization as they're rolling out, you know, features and capabilities for the customers.
What's exciting to me here is that layered approach that Raziel's describing, where you have progressive delivery, you have rapid delivery with, you know, audit trails and risk management, you have progressive delivery, and then you've got a feature flagging layer on top if needed for in-application customization. This is so cool. I just feel like DevOps it's flashy, you know, it's exciting. Like that we're not writing build scripts or configuring YAML files for a Kubernetes deployment or something. This level of real-time control of customizing applications to end user populations and being able to allow many development teams to work in parallel. It's a fun place to build your career. DevOps is sexy right now, and these tool sets that are being developed in the community and professionalized and added onto are bringing a kind of shininess and fun to the whole operation. As a person who works in this kind of stuff, I find it exciting right now.
And it's a great day to be a developer, a software developer. It's always been great, but I think it's greater now when you're empowered to, really deploy changes frequently, when you have the confidence to see what's going on and roll back. It's just exciting times today.
Yeah, and the support is really good. Like with Canary releases and stuff, I remember, when in order to do this stuff, we really had to have a service mesh. And if you look inside of the Canary release support, the blue-green deployment support, it's not just service meshes. You can do it with just an Amazon like ALB. Like you can do it with like some of these just out of the box like ingresses and gate, virtual services and stuff. So it's pretty awesome from a support perspective. Another element I was thinking about too, as we've been going through this, is opinionated versus flexible. And I felt like with this platform, we really tried to create something that was opinionated, but was also super flexible. So like if people are using Argo CD today, they're not always doing GitOps. They can actually just add applications manually in that configuration. It doesn't exist in Git, but in this platform, when I am operating something, I'm actually doing it in Git first as a default. But technically, I could go outside those lines, or I could be flexible. I wouldn't have to do GitOps deployments. I can do CD, kind of pipeline deployments too. So I felt like we really struck that line between opinionated, but also allowing you to go where you wanted to go and needed to go.
That's great.
Maybe just something else to talk about as we come up on the close here is, what are you excited for this year? What's excited for the future? We're launching this new platform today. Obviously, there's a lot of additions and releases that are happening over the next few weeks and over the next few months that are adding additional features. I saw somebody asking about autocomplete, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we've got an epic for that. It's going to be done soon." What are some of the things that you guys are really excited about?
I'll take it maybe. I think first of all, what we're bringing in together, it's super exciting. It's how to top that. Yes, I would say. We've been working so hard to bring this platform all together. Seeing all of these components of Argo coming together, it's super exciting. But then we're thinking about where we're taking this next and what's the potential of, as we having these automations goes all the way from code to cloud. And we have this full transparency on everything that happened during this automation. We can actually layer on top of it the ability to govern these deployments and make sure that we're meeting the policies that we have in place, whether it's security policies or any other policies, and really helps in increasing the level of confidence we have with deployments, making sure that if something is not meeting all the policies, we actually holding it before it gets to our production. So this is something that is super exciting as we start thinking forward on what else we can get. And then we talked about, and Isaac showed the layers of progressive deliveries. There is one layer below, which is like infrastructure as a code, that we want to see how we can continue with this progressive delivery to the infrastructure level, and then partner with the great vendors out there for feature flagging to provide this upper layer integration. So I think it's a great foundation that we set with this platform, and now it opens so much for us to build on top of it.
To me, what's exciting is Argo is an incredibly flexible and yet has an opinion about how to do things, and it has a very strong community. So building on top of this, it's a great foundation. There's a lot of opportunity to provide cool workflows, and Argo is not just for Kubernetes. I think that's what I look forward to. That we can use this system for applications that don't just run on Kubernetes.
I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, we just did a webinar with Crossplane and there's some other kind of infrastructure extension providers, but infrastructure as applications is the term that I'm working on popularizing now. Is infrastructure as applications. It's going beyond infrastructure as code. It's actually treating your infrastructure as an application with a life cycle of an application. Really extends and like makes these platforms way more powerful than they could have been without that. So we're at the closing. We've shown people today the platform. We've given them an introduction. We've had some commentary and discussion around some of these principles, some of these ideas. I'm really excited. I hope that that everybody listening to this is like running to the website and like, oh my gosh, I got to go request this. I got to go get a demo for my team. I got to go start trying this out. We've been trying it internally for a while. We've been piloting with some customers for a while. The feedback's been incredible. So I think maybe the thing that I'm looking forward to the most in the near term is just all the incredible feedback from the community as they start to really adopt this and roll it out to their organizations. So with that, I'll invite you to go take those actions, go get that certification, make sure to follow us on Twitter, grab that t-shirt. We're excited to engage with you in the Argo community. We're excited to engage with you at the events that we have coming up. GitOps Con is obviously coming up and so many other things. Raziel, Moran, final words?
And again, guys, if there is a detailed demo that you guys wanted, don't hesitate. Go to our website, ask for a demo request. We will be happy to go and give a much more detailed demo. I think we've just managed to scratch the surface today. We will be happy, if you click on a demo request, show you the whole breadth of the platform.
Yeah, and I will double that. If you're an existing customer of Codefresh Classic, reach out to your TAM, to your AEs, and we'll be happy to help you move from Codefresh Classic to the new platform and help you along the way. So.
Perfect. Thank you, Laurent. All right, everyone, we're going to sign off. Thank you so much.
Thank you.